Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 5. I think it's episode. Is it episode 5?
Already, yeah.
Yeah, crazy.
We're getting there.
Although we have had a bit of a break from the last
Yeah.
episode.
We've been having a kitchen sabbatical.
Sabbatical, yeah. Well, it's been a bit chaos, hasn't it?
Yes.
Recently.
What's happened?
Yeah. But yeah, busy time in Sheffield.
Yeah, we're coming to the peak season for us.
Yeah.
Wedding season's approaching.
Not for me, though.
No.
So, I've left my job as being a chef. So, do I still qualify as behind the pass, even though I've done 20 years behind the pass?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm still putting it out there, yeah.
Yeah. So I've recently left my job in a big hotel, and I've just gone to warehouse work.
Can't blame you. Can't blame you.
It's a bit like shopping on an extreme level. But yeah, I did want to talk about that transition to you.
Yeah.
And for people out there and people who are chefs who aren't chefs, just how different it is.
Yeah.
It's, it's just a different world. Do you know what my favourite is? So what I do is obviously I pick orders. It's not amazing, it's not fruitful, and it's not a load of money, but I just needed to take a break just to reset my mind, refocus, and sort of see where I were at. I need to spend a bit more time with my family. Because, with being a chef, we've worked most Christmases, most birthdays, most Mother's Days, and I wanted to spend a bit of time now with my family, reconnect. I know I've taken a bit of hit on money, but, well, I say a hit, it's only a little bit, it's not loads.
Yeah. It'd be worth it back with your travel and transport.
Yeah.
Costs and stuff will all be. You get your time back.
Yeah.
Time's valuable.
Yeah. But yeah, the difference in the people that I work with and for is unbelievable.
See, I never, because in a kitchen, you kind of like, that your food comes from markets, it comes from warehouses and how it's stored, but you never really look that far behind it and how it's actually looked after, stored, picked, delivered, the supply chain. We respect the chain, but
yeah,
we don't fully understand. Like, I have visions in my head of what it's probably going to be like in the warehouses. It's probably nothing like what in my head it says.
Yeah.
It's probably completely different.
Yeah. Well, the thing is what baffles me is the mentality of the people that work there. So, like, there's quite a few old blokes.
Yeah.
Nah, the proper grafters. It is where chefing's more mental and a little bit physical. It's mental and physical labour. Yeah. Where these guys are just sheer grafters.
Yeah.
Like
conscience.
Start to finish grafters. And they're all blokes. Like, it just baffles me.
Yeah.
But they don't know how to put a shift in.
Yeah.
It's quite respectful, actually. Quite, when you look at them, you think, fucking go you. Like, it's
cracking on.
But I have to take respect to that. When they finish their shift, there's no taking it home. As soon as you put your finger on that clocking out machine, you're done.
So that's the thing that is probably going to be the biggest thing for you. It's leaving it at work.
Oh yeah.
Chefing's 24 hour. You're taking phone calls just before it. I just took a phone call just before it to talk about cheese. Literally this morning, I've had like 3 phone calls about different suppliers. I've had to talk about an interviewee and deal with that, and that's on a day off.
It is a weird feeling, laid in bed, not thinking about
shit. They put my orders in
the next day. Yeah,
shit.
The function. Oh shit! Yeah. I need to do this. Oh, I've got a prep list I need to do. No, it's not none of that.
Yeah,
and they're really strict on breaks. Like, you've got to take a break, a 15-minute break, which I go for a smoke, and then I have my lunch. Well, I say lunch because it's late at night. And then I have another 15-minute break, but everything's really regulated to a point where I nearly got bollocked because I didn't take a break.
Really?
Yeah. Manager says you need to take a break because it's working time standards.
Yeah. That's mad, isn't it?
Like,
you think, what the fuck is that?
Getting a bollocking because I didn't take a break.
That's ridiculous. I'm giving people bollocking for taking 2 minutes too long on the break.
But I do think in chefing, like, you're working with blind, and I say chefing, the hospitality industry in general,
yeah,
you're working with blinkers on.
yeah.
Like, how far do you push yourself?
Well, prime example, Saturday, I started at 6 in the morning on Saturday, left at 11 at night, didn't see sun that day, and then went home, sat up for a couple of hours, a couple of days, went to bed. Sunday morning, or up, in at 6 in the morning, worked through, and then till 10 at night,
Yeah.
come home, stock take Monday morning, 6 o'clock in the morning,
But
back in
we've
Monday, and that
but
was my day off.
but we've made that normal. So
Yeah,
when you sit down and drink your beer, you think, "Oh, I've worked hard today. I've accomplished something."
yeah,
But what are you accomplishing for? Like,
yeah, so
no
nothing.
extra money goes in your pocket.
No,
And this is what I mean. This is what baffles me as being a chef, right? Fair enough. If we had no business, we wouldn't have a job.
yeah,
If we had standard, steady business, we're doing well, we're working well, we're creating good food.
yeah,
If it were absolute chaos, you still get paid the same. Your team
yeah.
just works harder.
See,
So
I think it's that rough and smooth. This is how I always explain to people when it kicks off at me, or when people that are on looking outside, looking in, like when it's wedding season or Christmas, for example, December. I have one day off in December normally, and that's just to have a Christmas day with the girls. That's my Christmas. I'll work the rest of it. The power five, all the five: Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, Boxing Day, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, not a problem. I'll work them all because I've never had them off to know what to do with them. So it's not been something I've ever wanted to do. But when it gets to January, I can take time back. I can do less hours. I can have a steady shift. We can have, we have the busy shifts and we have the quiet shifts. And I know that I'm going to get paid regardless if I'm getting absolutely slammed or if I've fed 4 people that day, which is boring when you think of it like that. But sometimes you can charge your batteries up while doing stuff that you want to do, and you can utilize your time better to develop and do stuff what you want to get cracked on with.
and that's what I'm struggling to deal with, especially with this warehouse work. That who made this normal? Like, who made working 60, 70 hours a week normal? When you sit down at the end of the week and say, I've done 70 hours, why is that okay? Like that, and I know there's never going to be an answer. It's always going to be an open question. But I just think, like, the amount chefs or hospitality people in the hospitality industry work, like, who normalised that?
Who's that? Who was the chef? The classic phrase. Chefs get annoyed because people don't understand and the world doesn't work how a kitchen operates.
Yeah,
What was it? Would it Raymond Blanc?
I don't know.
I think it was Raymond Blanc, and he said he gets annoyed at the fact that when a delivery turns up late to his work, and he's like, yeah, but if a customer came in and didn't get fed for
No,
an
it
extra
isn't
hour,
Anthony Bourdain.
Anthony Bourdain, yeah. I literally been listening to his audiobook as well, so I should have realised it would have. But that describes the mentality of a person. That's why when you look at the industry, we're full of people that have either got ADHD, we've got extra isms that we deal with, just because we've all been put in there as we were hyperactive kids, too much energy. There you go in the kitchen, work with fire and nice and burn it off. And that then becomes an environment that you have to work hard in. You need less people because you never have enough staff, and everyone has to pull extra and do extra. Like, that's one thing that people don't understand is if someone walks out or leaves, that you don't have a carpool to go, right, I've got a body here to put straight in, or we can just cut down that order, or whatever it is. We have to manage, and that's people don't get that.
I know, but when you take a step out, like other things, like phoning in sick.
Oh God, I never had a sick day.
This new job,
Never.
we have a brief on before a shift.
Yeah.
They tell us basically how many things we have to pick. I'm not going to digress into like what I have to do day to day, but they tell us how many things we have to pick, which I'm cool with. They tell you how many people's on holiday, and they also tell you how many people are on sick. Now, they write it all on a board. 10 people were on sick on a shift.
Ow.
There
must be a lot of people in the warehouse.
Fair enough, there is about 90 on,
that's over 10%.
But 10 people on sick. Now, when you're a chef, you're lucky to have 2 people on sick in a year.
Yeah, I
2 shifts in a year.
I've never had a sick day in my life,
But the thing
and
is,
people always get naffed off when I always turn around and say, "You can't be that sick. You can't come to work." You
but
think, but
but
they are.
who not? And this is what it goes back to what I was just saying. Like, it'll never have an answer. But
No,
who normalised that? Who turned round and said, chefs don't have sick days?
yeah, we're operating every single day this year, and you can have 2 days off, and you can be happy with that.
Do you know
And
what
if
I
you have a
mean?
sick day, we're going to penalise you. It does sometimes feel like that because I'm just as guilty as the next person. Of it's been drilled into me that I'm not feeling right cracking, but that's just normal. Crack on. Where some people have got different pain thresholds and different levels of being able to deal with stuff. They might go, I'm feeling really ill. I can't work today. And in my head, I'm just thinking, fucking let me right down here.
Yeah.
But they haven't. But we're working to such a tight, I have so many people on a shift in a day. So if someone phones in sick, I'm having to ring around to try and get someone to come and do an extra day, or it then just puts a strain on that. It's not the person's fault that's ill, but it kind of makes everyone else's jobs harder,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then they feel guilty for being sick.
The same
And
theory
it's a guilt
applies
trip. Yeah.
to what I do. You know, if people are on sick, it does make everybody else's job harder. But the mentality behind it is, I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Like, I'm ill. I'm ill.
Yeah.
Like, I'm phoning in.
From me, it's almost like it's crazy to hear that there's 10 people on one day that's been sick. Like that, when you think that's bonkers.
It is bonkers.
But that's probably normal to a lot of people.
Yeah. Well, I know there's a lot of questions, like, but that'll never have an answer.
No, never.
But anyway, so a couple of questions been flying about. I know we asked people to drop questions in. One of the questions is standards of chef from now versus the past.
I'm not going to use that. Yeah, you go first because I need to not use them words because you know what words are coming and I have to not say them.
Hopefully, I can answer it for you so you don't offend loads of people.
Yeah.
So I appreciate today's standards of chefing. Now, I believe there's a high quality and a low quality and not many in between.
Yeah.
So I believe you can have, like, you know, you've got your sort of Michelin star, your high profile rosette chefs, or you've got your basic, you know, pub chefs and things like. No offense to people who work in pubs.
It's a term, pub chef, but it's the thing of it. People work in pubs,
Yeah.
and there's nothing wrong with that because they are good. You know, it's what people want to eat. They make business, make money.
I personally think there's 2 different styles, right?
Yeah.
I think today's chefing is very open-minded. Create what you need to create. You can put your spin on things, put spin on that thing, you know, and create menus how you value your customer base. And the past chef is very militant. So you're in a brigade, you're in a solid team, you get told to do what you're told to do.
So
you're going to
prep and hierarchy.
Yeah, you're going to prep 10 kilo of asparagus. It's done this way, this specific style. It gets blanched, refreshed. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think years ago, very militant. You do what you're told. This is how you're doing it. And I think to this day's chef, it's very, you have to think on your own 2 feet. But I think the caliber of chef is you've either got it or you haven't.
Yeah.
You know, and you get the people who can perform and you get the people who are trying to perform, but you know aren't really going to get anywhere.
I'm just glad that I was trained in that old era than the new era, because I'm not saying it would have been massively different, but I think we're at the perfect age where we know enough about technology and enough about flair to do new stuff, but we've got the work ethic of the old school. I think we're a good. The work ethic of the old school was a lot higher than what the work ethic is now.
Do you think a 70s chef could survive now?
Probably not to a. I've got I've got loads of books upstairs from the old school stuff, and there was one of my books. It's an old European cookbook of like the European masters cooks, but whatever it was. And I look at the dishes and think, okay, now I won't put that on a menu. And that's probably because the style of food was different back then. But the things that we have now, that we can do now, we have more tools, we have more tricks, we have more, there's more theatre to things. And I think probably in 20 years' time, we're going to look back and go, Jesus, that was shit what we were doing then. But I think taking a chef from the 70s and putting him in now, it'd be like taking a Formula One driver 50 years ago and saying, right, here you go, putting them in supercars now, drive that the same. I just don't think they could do it.
Do you know what I do like about this day and age? So in the chefing in the past, you knew what you were getting. It were always reputation.
Yeah.
So if you went to one place, you knew the reputation, you knew what you were eating. If you go to a shit place, you knew what you were eating. Do you know what I mean? You knew what you were getting. Like this day and age, I think it's more of a surprise. So like, there's this pub down the road from me. 5 years ago, absolute shithole. It were barren. I went for food. It were horrendous. Now, in the back of my head, I thought, I ain't ever coming here again. Now, a couple of weeks ago, I think it was around Father's Day, I wanted to go my wife booked a place. I really want to say it, and it keeps wanting to say the name, but I don't want to say the name. Like, she booked this place, and I thought, oh God, I really don't want to go, because the dinner were horrendous. But when we turned up, it had all been done out.
Yeah.
It looked amazing inside. Yeah, it looked amazing inside. I thought, oh, okay. And then sat down, ordered food. It was just a carvery, but it were done right.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I like the surprise.
Yeah.
Like, I went for a meal a couple of weeks prior to that, I think, for my birthday. Another little pub, and that were a bit run down. So I sits down. We had lunch, and that were really nice. Expensive, but done right. So I'm enjoying, in this day and age, the element of surprise. Like turning up to somewhere where I think it's going to be A-okay, and then
they exceed it.
Some little pub chef has blown it out of water.
Yeah.
Just hit the nail how pub food should be.
Yeah.
And that's what I like. So, past, you knew what you were getting.
Yeah.
Now, I like the element of surprise. It's a bit of a gamble, to be fair, because you could get something absolute horrendously dog shit.
Oh, yeah. It's like the old saying is that if it's not broke, don't fix it. They're trying to do I saw this guy trying to do a Caesar salad in a glass, and you think, oh, give up. Just give up. What you're playing at, just do it. If it's going to be doing a Caesar salad, just do it properly. Don't piss about and put it in a glass with a shot of chuffing dressing. Do it properly.
So in terms of chefing, as an actual chef, I like that. I like that there's that transition of surprise.
Yeah.
I do appreciate the militant methods of the past, but I really like the element of surprise, of turning up, of somewhere that has got it or it hasn't.
Yeah, I get that. Like, one of my biggest things of it is the work ethic of the old school kitchens compared to work ethic now, from a point of view of, not from the customer point of view, from the working point of view. If I said to you, right, there's a guy that he's worked in some good places and he's 50-year-old and he knows the old school ways of doing stuff, or you've got a 21-year-old whiz kid that's got some tweezers, but he only wants to do 4-day week and he wants to do 8-hour days, he'll do 5 days, and you've got him for 5 days from start to finish. I know which one I'd rather work with. I know what I'd rather be doing. I'd rather be stood by someone that's been through it all and done it, and they're willing to stand back to back with you, rather than picking a piece up with someone that's not going to finish their job. That's that kind of from behind the scene. I get what you're saying about from customer point of view, but
okay, side question then.
Yeah.
On top of that question, would you rather take somebody that has been through the wars, 40 years old, been through it thick and thin, every type of service, and ready to go, but is stuck in his ways?
Yeah.
Or would you take on a new kid on the block who's passionate,
Depending on
But-
position.
but
That's
with fuck all knowledge?
yeah. If I'm going common chef, blank canvas every day. Like young kid, blank canvas. But if I'm looking for a sous chef that's going to be able to run it when I'm not there,
Yeah.
that's when I'm looking for experience. I'm looking for the old school. It's really dependent on the position for that. So if I'm getting someone in that I can train, that's like you say, young, fresh, keen, that wants to learn, that's fantastic. Like I'll take that any day of the week for someone that's like a young one. I've currently got a kitchen porter that's wanting to progress into being into a chef.
Yeah.
And it can get frustrating that he's not washing up enough,
Mm.
but he's literally wanting to learn dessert. So he's learning how to do stuff and he's watching and he's taking it in. So a check comes on, he can go, I'll put that in the oven for you. Or I can make that when he brings you over it and goes, is that right? Is that right? And you think, yep, because that's exactly what we're showing him, is just copy paste. And he's happy learning that he knows what he's doing. Whereas I've got other chefs that can go on there and just cause absolute chaos for a day on a pastry section. So dependent on position and dependent on the surroundings would vary. But if I had to pick blindly just for there's two people in the kitchen, me and another person, I'd just take the experience on that one.
No, would you?
Yeah. Just because it would make everything smoother. Whereas if you've got a fresh-faced person, the training's going to be intense, it's going to be hard, and they're not going to be able to think on their feet. They're going to be constantly calling, constantly needing to know. And I think one of the biggest problems I've got like at the moment with old school, new school is that if you say to an old school chef, can you make me a soup? They can make you a soup, as in they'll know exactly how to make it. They'll make a nice soup, and they might have a different method to get there, but you're going to get a leek and potato soup. It's going to taste like leek and potato, and it's going to be nice. It's going to be right. There's passion and pride into doing it. You tell a new kid, right, you're going to make a leek and potato soup today. They're just going to go, I want to do better things than that.
Yeah.
And that does happen a lot. I don't want to do that. I want to make a macaron.
Yeah.
I don't want to make a chocolate brownie. I'm getting bored of that. I don't want to stick it.
No, I do get that actually.
And they're not everything you give to a guest needs to be top notch. So if they're coming in and they want a leek and potato soup, give them the best leek and potato soup you can make.
Yeah.
But I just don't think the new kids would do that. They try and put it in a spuma gun and there you go, here's your leek and potato soup. So 1 teaspoon of air, there you go, crack on.
That actually takes us on to the next question, which, when does food stop being food and turns into art?
I'm not going to mention the name of it because I don't want to cause problems, but when someone uses a canvas rather than a plate to spray on food, that was when I looked and thought, that's cool, but it's too far. I've got a plate upstairs and it's called, a book upstairs and it's called We Want Plates.
Yeah.
And people putting stuff in flat caps, putting things on shovels. I saw a cheese
That's
board
true.
shaped on a shovel.
That's true.
Or a place years ago I saw, and it was a kid's dinner. I get it. It's a kid's dinner. You're trying to do something gimmicky. They had a mini shopping trolley on the table full of peas for the kid to push around. And I'm like, that's
crazy.
Yeah, that's not even that's not doing anything with food. That's just, it's not elevating anything. You're putting a fucking cart and pushing it around the table. It's not, cook on a canvas. When I saw that dish and he literally was on TV, and he's a good chef, he doesn't know what he's doing, but he was all these different powders and stuff he put into aerosol cans, and he sprayed all over the canvas like a picture, and then put pink pork collar on it. And you think, are you eating that with a knife and fork on a canvas?
Yeah.
You're just ripping it to pieces. You can't put that through a dishwasher. You're literally taking that home with cut marks in it. What's the point?
I personally think that when the difference between food and art, I think it stops at 2-3 rosette.
Yeah.
I think 3 rosette is your line.
Perfect.
I think, honestly, I am not discrediting any Michelin star or whatever, but I do think at 3 rosette it stops being food. So when you make a menu for 3 rosette, I think that is food for somebody to eat that you've thought about the customer.
Yeah.
I think anything above that, it turns into art. Now, these people who work in Michelin stars have an unbelievable talent,
Yeah, skill, big time
like
skill.
some next level talent, and I get it. But I do think that is the transition. I think that after that, after three rosette, you're an artist.
Yeah,
You're a chef, but you're an artist. I think below that, you're a chef.
yeah. I think it's the difference, like you said, difference between pretty and art. Like if I'm going to plate a dish and I've got done some cracking dishes over the years, and I look and I think, when people take photos of it and you see it, you go, that's literally, that is like it, you, you could put that anywhere on any social media and it'll just look fitting so well.
Yeah,
But it's also a substantial dinner.
yeah,
It's not a load of shit just made look nice. It's
yeah.
actually well thought about food, done in a nice way and presented properly.
Mm,
It's not just wrapped up and put into a box and put on your table. It's thought about properly.
yeah,
A lot when you look and there's places that try to be more than they are,
yeah,
and they try to go down the gimmicky route of arts and do things. And I've seen people serving just a full burnt leek on a plate because I like the look of it,
mm,
and not thinking about as a customer eating that.
mm,
That's not edible. Like, why would you do that? But because they like the look of it.
yeah.
And
See, when I used to create menus for three rosette, you still had to think in regards of a customer's palate. So I think the transition goes from thinking about the customer to above that three rosette. I think then you're thinking about the chef and the talent of what he can put on the plate to show to a customer.
yeah,
I think that's the transition. I think when I used to make menus at Three Rosette, we had to think about, so when we created a dish, you had to think about your carbohydrates, your protein on the plate, and then your vegetable, and then create the balance between
yeah,
the three elements and then your sauce
yeah,
to create the dish. Then you make it as nice as possible.
yeah,
Do you know what I mean? Then you start adding Monty and butter through your stocks and your sauces. You start adding different herbs and spices, flavors. Then an addition to garnish, and then you create your dish. Where I think anything above three rosette, I think has a team of people sat down or a chef that's high caliber, really discussing and deciding what elements fit right. Like I said, it's chemistry
yeah,
and it's art.
yeah.
Where I think below that is we are cooking for a customer's palate.
But I think you hit the nail on the head straight away with when you said about getting your protein, your veggies, your starches. You wanting the balance,
Mm,
your acidity, sweet. You want your sharp. You want all your different balance. We think of that before we put it on a plate because I write a dish before I plate it
yeah,
and think about how the flavour is going to work,
yeah,
because it can look as pretty as you want, but if it tastes like dog shit, it ain't going to eat it. So it's got to be. I always think that the art side of it, when they make things look good,
mm,
sometimes it can be substance of a actual flavour.
yeah,
People can just go too far and think, I'm going to make a parmesan air, and that's
mm,
what you're going to have. And they have that, but there's no. It's one really nice little thing that looks cool, but if it's not done with the right balance and done with the right flavour and the right dish,
yeah,
it's pointless doing it.
yeah,
I think things have got to look nice, but to an extent of you you know flavour comes first.
mm,
I think flavour and food comes before the art.
mm,
And like I said, I'm a big believer in white plates. I like just nice clean white plates and then letting the food do its talking.
mm,
Let the elements do its talking. And the worst thing in the world is when I see someone go, that needs some more colour on that, and they
mm,
put a pea shoot on, or
yeah,
frigging red amaranth. That's
yeah.
the worst thing in the world. And
Tastes like dish
fucking
soap.
soap, yeah. Or even like micro coriander on something that doesn't need it.
Yeah,
Like, just because it adds a colour to it doesn't mean that it adds anything to the dish.
yeah,
And I think too many people will go, I'm going to put a pea shoot on that.
yeah,
But I've never tasted a pea shoot.
yeah,
It tastes like fucking shit peas.
yeah.
They're not nice.
Sick.
They're not nice, and they're expensive for nothing.
Yeah,
It's like watercress. Okay, watercress can be nice with certain things. Watercress with some shallots on there and some pickled gherkins, some capers, some lemon can make a really nice base for a salad. But when someone just goes, I'm going to put some watercress on that because it'll look green,
yeah,
I think that It's style over substance.
Has to serve a purpose.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think do it right, and as long as you can make it look nice, don't go too artsy. Go more for the people will return for flavour any day of the week rather than
Yeah.
looking and going, I like the look of that dish.
Yeah.
I ate half in it because it wasn't really nice, but
Yeah.
it looked mint. No, it's got to. I think flavour before
Yeah.
faffing.
Okay. Next question. So, in terms of obviously what we've talked about in the style of food, what's your thoughts on sharing recipes?
Well, I think to a degree, you've got to kind of have the rapport with the guy before you can, or girl, sorry. You've got to have the rapport with the person before you can give them that, because that's like your tricks of the trade. And I think it's important to be able to share it with the right people, but not give it to people that are going to abuse it.
Mm.
So I've worked on my recipes that are in my book, and I've tampered and changed and tweaked it because it needed something else, or worked out something, or a ratio wasn't quite right, or you add things to it and you figure things out, and then when you write it down, it's like yours that you've designed and made. I think as long as you share it with someone it's relevant working with you, or the person that you trust that's going to use it properly and not going to make a fool of that dish, and it's still your name to something, isn't it?
Mm.
Like my chocolate brownie, literally my chocolate brownie, I gave to Andy that one other week. Gave him a chocolate. He texted me saying, "I want to do a chocolate brownie at work. Can you send me your recipe for it?" Yeah, no bother. That guy, no problem. Have the recipe. Just this is the method. Do it properly. Do it justice. Don't do it half-assed. Like do it right.
So I'm going to piss you off here.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say my gravel axe recipe is better than yours. But if me and you were in a let's say me and you were in a kitchen and we had to make a gravel axe, whose recipe are we using? If we're same rank, whose are we using? Mine or yours? See, I'd want to use mine.
And I'd want to use mine.
But
this is where I think this is where you've got to compromise. You have to compromise on stuff, but end of the day.
But I'm a larder chef. This is what I specialise in.
I've worked on these recipes for so long, getting these recipes right, and I know. I've got to say.
See, if you were head chef, I would always go with your recipe because it's your kitchen.
In it, yeah.
But if we were toe to toe, same position, whose were you using?
See, this is where it'd have to come down to a blind testing, wouldn't it? You'd have to make it. You'd have to both make it and go right. This is it, and then you'd have to come up to an agreement on what is best for that dish with that garnish for that customer. So that's where you've got to kind of put your egos to the side and go, we're cooking for a guest, and the guest has got to have the best. So I've had people come in before and show me things that I've not seen, and I think, actually, that's quite good, actually. Someone's made something that's really good, and I think, actually, that works quite well. I'm going to use that because the recipe I've got for that, it's okay, but that's better. So can I use that recipe? Yeah, fantastic. I'll build on that one instead. So there's no... I think that's where ego's got to be taken out when it gets to customers getting the right.
Yeah,
they've got to have the best, and it could come down to cost points. My gravel axe might cost £1 a portion. Yours might cost £2 a portion. So we look and go, can we justify charging a guest for that with that extra? Is it worth it, or is it worth doing this? Can you tell the quality between the pricing and stuff like that? And there's so many factors you've got to work on with that.
So, sub question, and I'm going to be open here. We've worked for a guy, and I'm actually going to say his name because he is an unbelievable chef.
Yes.
Called Mike. When we worked with him, it was very difficult to get recipes. Now, he would say and do specific things. Say if he was preparing or doing the mise en place, doing the prep work for it, he would do certain specific jobs because they were to his standard.
Yeah.
Now, I get it. I really do. He is an unbelievable chef. Now, do you think he should have shared his knowledge, or do you think he should keep himself a little bit back justifiably because the caliber of what he was is who he was? Do you know what I mean?
think that there's got to be.
It's a bit like Lewis Hamilton,
Yeah.
like training somebody else. Does he train them 100%, or does he keep a little bit back for himself?
Yeah.
Because how Lewis Hamilton drives is who he is.
Yeah.
If he were to teach somebody everything he knew, would he be creating another Lewis Hamilton?
Well,
Do you think he... So my question is
yeah.
do you think he was right in holding back these recipes and doing things himself? But I get why he did it, because he upholded that top standard.
This is a balance. So I think, personally, I think he should have shared the recipes. And to be fair, he did share with us, but once he understood that we was going to do them properly,
Yeah.
like he wouldn't just go up and go, here's a piece of paper with the recipe on it. If you're going to get a recipe, you've got to take the method and the cooking processes, and you've got to understand what you're doing.
So what you're saying is basically, it's a bit like testing ground. Once he's shown you how to do it,
Yeah.
you've perfected it, then he give you the recipe.
Yeah. I think just giving it to any Tom, Dick and Harry is the wrong thing. Like, my ethos is, when you find someone that's good, you want to make them better than yourself.
Yeah.
So why would I not give them the tools to help them?
Yeah.
Because I want them to do that to someone. Passing knowledge on is what we do. That's what we do with training, because we have to pass knowledge on. Because if we didn't, no one would get anywhere.
Yeah.
We have to. If people didn't pass us knowledge on, we wouldn't have a clue at like 90% of what we're doing, because we would have had to figure everything out, and we would have had to. There'd be no cookbooks. There'd be no loose gastronomiques, because white people won't share.
Yeah.
If people don't share, people can't get better.
Mm.
So I think putting it on the table, you have to share it. I understand about keeping things to the high standard. Like, for example, his bread recipe, bang on. But you have to have the right method to go along with that, or else it's just putting these things won't work.
Yeah.
Putting these things together in a bowl and whisking doesn't work. Like, the amount of times I've seen people trying to do that, where they just put it all together, cake batter.
Yeah.
I witnessed a chef, I gave him a recipe once for a cake, and I'd given the thing, and he didn't understand the way you've seen my recipes. I write the ingredients down, and then I'll group them and go like, that's step 1, that's step 2, that's step 3. Then I'll put step 1 plus step 2, add step 3. And I do it like that. It's like shorthanded.
Yeah.
So then I know what it means. But if someone picked my book up and read it, it'll go, the fuck is that? Like, that don't make no sense. But I know what it means, because that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
So I tell someone, write it down properly, because this is how I write mine down.
Yeah. I'd like to look at. So we also work with a guy called Scott, who was it? Was he a commie at the time? I don't know what he was.
Maybe no, he was a demi.
A demi chef de party. Yeah. Now he were good.
Yes,
he reminded me. He reminded me of like a bassist in Oasis. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Loved his style, loved his mentality. I loved his ethos. Really young, energetic. Now, at the time, he didn't know much.
It was, when he first walked in, he was so wet behind the ears. It was unreal.
But so now he works at Madison Park in New York. What I'd love to see is like, not talk to him in such, but like look through his stuff, his recipes.
God, yeah.
And just see how
he's built,
from where he's gone to now, like what his recipe structure looks like. Because I bet it's unbelievable.
I'll never forget the day when we was working there, and we were all leaving we were all leaving round about the same time.
Yeah.
We was all going at the same time. We were all moving on, and we'd been there for a amount of time. And he was kind of like worried, because he didn't want to leave, and he was like, oh, I like what I'm doing, I like what we're doing here. And we'd been, I don't want to say the word bullying, because we wasn't bullying him. We was building his character. Yeah. We used to give him a lot of shit and make him do stuff, because we could see what he could do, but he couldn't see it himself.
No.
Like, we used to make him do dishes, and we'd do stupid little cook-offs with me, you, Marek, and him. We'd do stupid cook-off dishes just to taste stuff out, and just to like show off a bit with like, oh, what about this? And then he really tried, and I'll never forget, he did this dish, and it was he'd done a sugarwork tube and then filled it with a frozen mousse.
Yeah.
And he tried it, and it looked terrible, but the idea was amazing that he did. But the execution, he'd just gone for it without looking into it properly. And when I say it looked terrible, I meant as in he didn't present it, he didn't have to present things, but the substance that he did and the idea that he had was really good. And that's where it was like, right, now we know we can help him build on that because I've done that before, you've done that bit before, we'll build on it.
It's,
And we took all, I can remember when we were leaving, he was stood there in the kitchen, and I looked at him, and he'd got an interview somewhere, and I said, right, where are you going? He told me, and I went, right, open your knife box. And he opened his roll up, and I looked in his knife, so I'm like, right, wait there. I went out the corner, got my knife roll, opened it up, took my fish knife out, my filleting knife, put it in his, took my slicing knife out, put it in his. Ones that I'd got there, just like, take it out, put it in his. I think there was 3 knives that I gave him.
yeah.
Took my apron off, literally, because his aprons, he always used to wear them stupid aprons, like half aprons, not butcher's aprons. Yeah. Took my apron off, rolled it up, put it in his box, and then, I can't remember if I put something else in his box, in his roll, pushed it over and said, right, wash that, that's now yours. Them knives, they're now yours. When you go there, if you need them, they're there. You need, start thinking about what you're doing, because he is a good lad, and he just needed that push. And
just to think now that he could, if me and you teamed up to create a dish, he could still outcook us.
Yeah, he's fucking phenomenal with it. Where he's been, his CV.
Oh my God.
Just to get a copy of his CV. Every time I used to look and go, where's he now?
Yeah.
And you go, oh, he's at Fat Duck. Oh, where's he now? One Clume. Oh
my God.
The guy had just ballsed it and just gone, you know what, let's go for it.
Yeah.
And I've taken my hat off to him because he was young, energetic, and he wasn't, it sounds really tight, he wasn't tied down to the area.
Oh, no.
So he
free
could
spirit,
just go,
he could do whatever he wanted.
We've got partners, we've got kids. We don't want to go, right, I'll see you in 6 months, I'm off to go work, or I'm off to go to Hong Kong, see you in a bit.
I do love it when I see people excel like that.
Oh, yeah. Well, there was a guy I worked with, and he now works for a billionaire on a yacht.
Yeah.
And I had to get rid of him when he worked for me because he brought trouble to work.
Yeah.
Sorted it out. And it's the first time I've ever had to sack someone and give him a job within 5 minutes. I literally sacked him and said, look, you understand what's going to happen. I'm going to have to let you go today because of the incident that's happened, but don't move. Went outside, made a phone call, came back in and went, right, you need to get to Scotland because you've got a job there. I've rung up a place that I know and they've gone. Yeah, take him up, put him up here. You need to get away from the area, get up there and gone. Yeah. Funny enough, he worked with that Scott as well.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, because he texted me not long ago saying, do you know where Scott is now?
Yeah.
Yeah, so them two had worked at somewhere else, and he'd even said about him being flary as well.
Yeah.
So that's how small the industry is. Really small.
Yeah. So I think that ties us questions off for this episode.
So just to recap on that,
yeah,
I think sharing recipes is important.
All right.
But to the right people.
You have to earn it.
Yeah. Once you've earned your stripes in, you can have it. But when someone walks in, when they've rolled the sleeves up and they've got a pair of tweezers, and you think, oh, come on. And they walk in and I'm the best thing ever. You need to give me a recipe. Or when people steal them, that's scumbaggy. I hate it when people steal them. Like, one guy I know literally went through another chef's book and took a picture of every single recipe in his book.
Yeah.
And then created a folder and then added people to the folder so everyone could have it.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's a bit naughty, that, isn't it? Bit naughty, that.
Do you know what else annoys me as well? Like grumpy chefs. So I know this is yeah.
Oh, sorry about that.
So I worked, and I'm not going to name him on this occasion. We worked with a guy who was, so he wasn't like, what can I say? He wasn't a proper fine dining chef. He was a really good caliber chef.
Yeah.
But he were grumpy. He were grumpy.
Yeah. I know what you mean, yeah.
Outside of work, he were an unbelievable guy.
Yeah.
But once you tapped into his personality and you've understood him, he were an amazing guy.
Yeah.
Like, amazing. Like,
he could be a massive dickhead, though, to people.
If you want, but if somebody said to you, right, you're going into a service for 300 people, he is the fucking guy you want.
Yeah, yeah. 100%, actually, yeah.
But I just wish, at the time, it was just a nice, like, guy. Do you get what I mean? Like,
well,
I don't know.
He once said something to me, and his exact words were, he'd pulled me to the side, and it was as I was leaving, and he'd said to me, I don't like working with people twice.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right. And he went, but if you rung me, I'd probably make an exception.
Yeah.
And then he showed me his folders and files and stuff like that he'd been keeping. I'm like, So you've literally got in this locker here, locked away, all the information that we've been asking for, like
And this
to
is
do recipes that have been here for years. You've got it in that fucking locker, and you're telling me on my last week here that we could have done all this stuff. Why?
yeah.
And it was the thing is, he was a nice guy, but it was one of them things where you've got to know how to take him. He was a lot of the kitchen tricks and banter stuff have come from him that I've known.
But he goes back to the old, and this is why I brought it up because of the recipe thing, like you just discussed. And I think I have answered my own question actually. I feel like with him, you had to earn,
100%.
you had to earn trust to stand side by side with him.
One of the most famous things was he was that stubborn in the kitchen. You had to earn the right to plate the food up that he was cooking.
Yeah.
And he used to shout me over and say, Dan, pass. And you go, yep, no worries, chef, let's go.
Yeah.
And he would pass me stuff up knowing that when he was passing me out, I knew what he was doing and where he was bringing it. And he would just not talk, he would just bring.
Yeah.
And you had to get into his flow.
Yeah.
Because he was in the zone and he could do a lot. He needed to know that someone that was going to work with him in a stressful, busy place like we were needed to be on the right wavelength.
I've never seen him in shit. I never saw him in shit.
I don't think I did actually. I saw him get a bit flustered a couple of times. As in, like, he'd get naffed off and go, fucking calm down with checks. Yeah. And that's the only time I really saw him. But he'd never get caught out, and he'd never not be ready.
Yeah,
like he was always busy, always doing something. But he had
what I liked about him, he had a bit of a rock star mentality. Like he'd sit on an old oil can outside, smoking a cig, firing a few text messages, throw his cig, wash his hands, and go bang straight into service. Like I just love that.
The amount of times I'd look around and go, "Where is he?" And then just walk in through the back door, washing his hands, go, "Right, let's go." And you go. I didn't even know he'd gone. I remember him at the beginning of service. He used to roll his cigs and line them up outside on the side, and then he'd be able to go outside, have half a cig, take it out, wash his hands, go back in again.
Yeah.
And he was the reason why I think sometimes when people go on cig breaks now, they take the piss. And they'll go outside and they'll go get a coat, and then they'll go and stand in the little area.
He could time himself.
He knew exactly what we were doing, and he'd go, steaks on, I'll turn it in a minute and a half. I've got a minute to get out there, smoke 3 drags off my cig, put it out, wash my hands, back in here, done. Like, coat by the back door. He didn't leave it in changing rooms. It was by the back door. Coat on, outside, back in, coat off, done, in. It wasn't like it was a break for him. It was just I need a quick cig before I rip someone's head off.
So if you're listening and you're out there and you know who you are, we miss your rock star mentality and your lifestyle.
And I heard he did really well, actually.
Yeah, it did.
I heard. I'm not personally spoke to him for a while, but
I have.
Have you? Last time I saw him, it was at the old
it was about
bottom of Featherstone area.
It was about a year ago, but I think he's like a.
It was a Delafest rep that told me.
Yeah.
So they were doing really well. They'd had his own place started and that.
Well,
cracking on.
That concludes this episode. I hope you've enjoyed it, us talking shit. If you want to stop us rambling and talking shit, fire some questions over, and we can try answer them as well as we can do. But yeah, it's been an enjoyable one. It's been a long time.
It has, yeah. We've been quite hectic recently.
Consistency is not our favourable fortune, but hopefully we can lock something in.
Yeah.
I
think next week we should talk about tattoos.
Tattoos. Oh my god!
I think that should be next week. We've got to do that one next week. We've got a story on that, haven't we?
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's been a pleasure, and we'll see you all in the next episode.
Right. Thank you very much.